Welcome back to another live and amplified Indie Fusion podcast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we are back at it again. We are right in the middle of our Pancreatic Cancer Action Network fundraiser podcast marathon live stream. I got to figure out a easier name to say because that is a lot of words all at once. But we have our next guest with us. We have Joe Johnson from River Poets. How's it going today, man?
Fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. It's early in the morning, which is fine. I'm a morning person by natural selection, I guess is the best way to kind of put it. So I'm excited to sit down and chat with you a little bit.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So you're based up in Canada. You're from Alberta? Am I putting those context clues together correctly?
We're in Alberta, yeah. So my brother and I, we form River Poets as a duo, and then we
Hmm.
kind of expand, make a bigger band as we go. But we've been living here for 20 years. I've been here for 20 years. He's just under for him. But we're originally from the Paw, Manitoba. So we've done
Okay.
back and forth across the prairie provinces up here.
Oh, nice, nice, nice. I'm learning more about Canada and all the different provinces and all that stuff as I do more of these interviews. Because for the longest time, it was a lot of Ontario, Toronto.
Hmm.
Every once in a while, you'd get like Alberta, but for the most part, it was always Toronto, Ontario. And as I've done more of these remotely, I'm all over the place in Canada. It's really kind of cool. So.
Yeah, it's been awesome. The music scene here specifically, like I'm in Leduc, which is just like 20 minutes outside of Edmonton, and yeah, the music scene in Edmonton is fantastic. There's a really strong community here,
Yeah.
and it's like cross genre too, right? Like we primarily were kind of like a folk rock act,
Hmm.
but we've been playing with people from we did a show in the summer, and it was like there's a bunch of punk bands too, which was awesome.
That is cool. I do love this growing punk scene, which is very odd to say coming out of Canada, but
Hmm.
there's a really cool punk scene growing out of Canada, which is cool.
Yeah, there was the Real Sickies were the opening act of the Summer Rush Festival that we played at in up in Cold Lake, and it
Hmm.
was it was sick. Like they were so good. It was such a fun show.
Nice, nice, nice. And so you're up in Canada. How's everything going up there? Are you guys starting to feel the winter weather yet, or is it still a little too early for you?
Literally just today, we
Yeah.
when my kids just looked outside, they started. I went upstairs. I was getting ready, and they started screaming, and I was like, "Oh no, what's happening?" And it's snowing. So of
Oh,
course that's a big deal. So immediately my son is just like, "Can we go outside and play in the snow right now?" I'm like, I got a couple things to do, and then we will go."
nice, nice, nice. And so you and your brother form a band called River Poets.
Yep.
How long has that band been an idea? How long have you been playing together as River Poets? Kind of what's the background?
So we both of us have been playing music our whole lives. Like we both had
Mhm.
bands in high school, and then out of high school, like we just kind of like dabbling in different stuff. And I went and I did I did the music program at Grant McEwen, and then we sort of met up a couple years later back again, and we did a different band, and it was like this like prog rock uh, punk thing, like just very like a really niche kind of thing with one of our
Mhm.
buddies. And so it was always in the back of our minds. And then we were doing a summer or a family trip one summer, and we were kind of just sitting around a table, and we just started jamming this song, and it was very like the idea of River Poets, like the song that we wrote ended up being called River Poets, and it was just like driving folk rock stuff, and we're like, man, we really like this. And he's like, yeah, like it'd be awesome, like if because we were both playing guitars, like I could hear like a mandolin in here and this, and I'm like, oh, that sounds really fun. And this
Nice.
whole idea of just like writing, it ended up being like songs about Canada and really
Mhm.
focusing on like the stories of Canada. So we're just sort of kind of collecting. And that was, I think that might have been like 2018, twenty
Mhm.
nineteen, somewhere in there. And then within a year, I think we released our 6-song EP in 2020. So it was once it got rolling, it was quick. The songs
Nice.
started coming fast.
Nice. And how would you kind of describe the kind of music y'all make? Because I've been listening to your music for the last few weeks since y'all reached out
Hmm.
to me on WhatsApp. and I've been trying to put a like I know this day and age it's really hard to put your finger on the music, but how would you kind of describe your music?
The the biggest compliment we've ever got, was I was at I'm a teacher, so at school,
Mm,
people were asking about the music and everything else because they saw that we were playing shows. So I gave out a bunch of the EPs, and one of the ladies there, like we're starting to get a very strong like East Coast influence, like that
hmm
like great big C sound,
hmm
like Celtic things, and I she came back and she was out like she's out from from Newfoundland, and she came back the next day. She's like, I listened to your songs. They're really good. And the biggest compliment, she said, you guys sound like a cross between Blue Rodeo and Great Big Sea. And I was like, that is there's like that's the highest compliment for me,
hmm
because like those are like two of my favorite bands already.
Nice.
So that was really nice. So yeah, very um kind of like I mean we always say folk rock, like especially on some of the songs that go a bit harder, but there's
hmm
always like a little there's always like that country influence in there is always just
Yeah.
sneaking in everyone's, and that's just because of the stuff we listen to, right?
Yeah. 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 I was picking up a lot of like bluegrass elements in it. And so I was trying
Big
to
time.
figure out where like the bluegrass was fitting in. But when you kind of brought out like the country swing to it, I was like, okay, yeah, that tracks as well. So
Yeah, yeah. My brother, I like we always joke about it because people always ask, they're like, what kind of music do you listen to? And I'm just and I you know like the stuff that we listened to when we were kids, like
hmm
Blue Rodeo and Tom Petty and all, and like those guys. That's I still listen to that stuff. And then when they're asking like, what's some new stuff you listen to? And I'm like, it's so hard with streaming services because what I do is I go into those and you can literally listen to anything at all, like
hmm
anything you want. And I just go, I look at it and I just get overwhelmed. I'm like, I don't know what to do. So my brother Cable sends me. He's just like, listen to this guy, listen to this, and I'm like, okay. I just add them and then I just put those on rotation. So like
hmm
he introduced me to like Jason Isbell and like Coulter Wall and a lot of these Tyler Childers, like these kind of
hmm
guys, and started listening to that. And one of the big ones for that bluegrass was Trampled by Turtles, and we
Oh, well.
started just ripping into that stuff, and we're just like, it's awesome. It's so good.
Yeah. Right. 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 It's so funny because I feel like as much as Spotify has brought me new music and brought new music to the forefront for me, it's also made me a little bit more ignorant as far as who certain musicians are because like when you got build out your playlist and then you kind of turn on that what is it, the smart playlist feature where it'll start
Yeah.
bringing in similar artists to kind of keep your playlist fresh. If I'm not paying attention, it's just a song that's playing and it's like, oh, I like that song, okay, it's on my playlist, I'll figure out who it is later, and then it's not there anymore. So yeah.
Yeah, I love going through. I always have it like ready to go. So if there's a song I like I'll hit the thumbs up button or like the favorite button. And if
Yeah.
it's one that's not as good, I always make sure to dislike so that I
Yeah.
get less of those ones in there, because like
Yeah.
all those algorithms add up, right?
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. So for River Poets, you said you released your 6 song EP back in 2020.
Yeah.
Where are you guys at currently right now? What are you writing? Or are you more focused on live shows or where are you kind of at?
So it's kind of been a bit of both, like especially the last number of years. Like we've been kind of setting small goals for ourselves, eh? Like we
Mhm.
just kind of started out playing like coffee shops and like bars and stuff like that. And since then, like we've been working on writing music
Mhm.
and just gradually getting into to different scenes. So like my goal every year is to do like I always have like on my checklist, I'm like at least one music festival. And the
Nice.
last 4 years we've gotten into at least one. Last year we did the East Cooley Museum. It's like it's a music festival fundraiser,
Mm. Yeah.
and we got into that one, which was awesome because the year before we had applied for it and got accepted, and then unfortunately just because life happens, we had to back out. But I made sure to send them a message like we will be back because we really want to come and hang out and play music with you guys, because it's like a lot of my buddies that are in bands, they played there and they were just like, this is a really awesome experience, and it's for a good cause, right? Because it's like an historic museum, like classroom, like kind of thing out in the
Mm.
Badlands in Alberta. And we got to go back just this past May and play that, which was fantastic. And then we did the Summer Rush Music Festival up in Cold
Mhm.
Lake this year too, which was like that was awesome. Like the vibes there, it was exactly like it's on the lake. They've got
Yeah.
the state, like the stage backs onto the lake. Everyone's kind of just hanging out for the weekend, and the people running it were just amazing. And it was just good, like really good times. So
Nice.
you know, I every year I kind of like go in and like I apply to a bunch of different ones, and then if we get, hopefully we get one or two. So I'm hoping we can keep adding to that number every year. Um, the nice thing right now is with a couple of our contacts, we get when there's certain bands that are in a similar vein as to what we're
Mhm.
playing, when they roll through town, whether they're coming through Leduc or they're going through Edmonton. Every once in a while, like we'll get the call, we're like, hey, can you guys come open for these
Yeah.
guys? And like that's like we both have young families and we're both working, right? Like full time as well. Like this
Yeah.
is just we do this for fun because we just love it, right? Like
Yeah.
that's why we do it. And we've had the opportunity to play with some awesome like professional musicians that are
Yeah.
touring. And like if that's what we can do, like if we just write music, record music, and play for bands that are kind of popping through town, and then do like a little festival circuit once a year,
Hmm.
that's kind of the goal, right? Like that's where we want to be, because that's fun. Like that makes it
Yeah.
light, it makes it fun, and we don't have to, I love music, but I don't want it to be my job either. I think
Right.
that's kind of the goal, because I would hate to like lose the passion and the love
Mhm.
that I have for it.
Yeah, for sure. You're touching on something that I feel like a lot of people um don't think of or forget or neglect to realize. Like music is supposed to be fun. And yes, there's a lot of people that can go out, play 4 hour gigs every day and, just kind of grind through it and they're fine with that. But there's also people like yourself where it's like, I want it to be fun. I don't want to have to grind it out every day, because that gets taxing for very taxing. And
Oh yeah.
so, like, River Poets and my buddy's band are kind of in that same boat where they're all in their late 30s, early 40s, where um they've all been in bands, they've all done the tour thing, they've all kind of had their run, not run, but they've all kind of experienced what a traditional music life is.
Yeah.
And they're like, we'll release music once a year, maybe once every other year, and we're in good with one of the big venues in town. So whenever they have like a heavier act that comes in, we'll go open for them. And every once in a while, that act will be like, "Hey, you guys are really good. We want you to come out on the road with us for like a 5 day run," and they try and figure it out. So
That's not, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, and we realize, like, obviously, like, how number one, and just how lucky we are that people are calling us and asking us to like play our music for them,
Hmm.
which is really awesome. But also just a situation where we get to have a family life, and we get to have our careers, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a balance for that, but we're also every day we're just like we have it really good. Like
Yeah.
we never take that for granted. That's what we're doing, right?
No, yeah. I'm gonna have to check out this Summer Rush festival because it sounds a lot like the festival I go to in October. Um, they're not backed up to a lake; they're more backed up to a river, but
Yep.
it gives off that same exact vibe. And it's like I always love those moments where it's like
Oh,
it's a festival atmosphere, but it's not your traditional festival where everybody's just there to drink and get laid and all this stuff. It's like, yeah, you got people that are doing mushrooms and psychedelics and all that stuff, but it's all in good fun. It's not, yeah, it's
oh,
not
and
out of
yeah,
hand.
like I said, like that laid back vibe, like it was all like super positive energy, and
Hmm.
all the vendors and all the stuff that they had, like they thought stuff through. Like there was a one of the there's a guy with like doing printing press there, so
Hmm.
you can get posters, you can get T-shirts and everything else, and like you can go in and it's like totally custom. So the company's called Doubly Dope, and you can walk in, pick whatever shirt, they're all hanging on a rack, and then it's just like there's a big huge sign, and it's got like pick your shirt, pick your print, right? Boop boop boop. We'll go in and they press it, and like 20 minutes later, you've got your T-shirt, and you could
Nice.
get like they've got a bunch of different designs. Like the bands that were there, you could get their
Mm.
stuff printed on there. They had the festival the festival logo
Yeah.
with the lineup on the like, and just really smart stuff. Like all the food trucks, everything were local based, and like just support like a festival in the
Hmm.
community for the community too,
Yeah.
right? Which I
Yeah. Yeah.
think is like I love networking like that collaborative approach to music is where it's at. Like anytime we like anytime we play anywhere, like this is a rum distillery down in Calgary, and I
Nice.
love those guys. Like like they're just good people, and I promote them whenever I can. We got like local distilleries here. We go play their music. We wear their swag, right? And just like
Hmm.
because it's important to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I that's actually really cool. And one you were kind of describing the merch stand. That's actually really genius because yes, you still have to carry stock and inventory, but you're not dedicating it to the festival where it's like, okay, we're going to print 500 t-shirts all with the festival logo. Well, what if 500 people don't buy it? But if you have 500 shirts and they come in and it's like, oh, I want this or that, it just makes things a lot more versatile.
Oh yeah, it was awesome, and you can get like different style shirts, different colors, and
Mhm.
with the prints, like you could put like you put the logo on the front, on the back. You can get one on the front, one on the back. What like just really, it was really well done, really smart.
Yeah, absolutely. So, kind of looking forward, that are you guys currently writing any new music, or are you just
Yeah, like we've been stockpiling songs, like especially and unfortunately, like when we had our like EP released, and we actually have never actually had an official one.
Mhm.
We had it slated for what was it? Just I think it was like the end of March 2020. And
Mhm.
of course, I think we played like a St. Patrick's Day gig, and then COVID hit, and we're just like, well, we'll wait on everything because everything was just
Mhm.
kind of like in a state of purgatory basically. So
Yeah.
we went and that's what we did. Like the guy that recorded and produced our album, and he's our drummer when we go on the road and do like a full band thing. Uh, Him and I got together, and he's like, "Well, hey, like, do you want to start writing music?" So as a side project, we were just writing like just country songs, and I think we ended up writing about 50 tunes, and we demoed like five or six of them, and they got a little bit of traction and some interest from some people, which was really cool. Like that was, and considering the time, like when COVID hit, all of the best writers, because no one was touring, all the best writers were writing again,
Mhm.
right? So for anyone to even like take a minute to just listen to a track, I was like, that was good. Like that's, again, just those little baby steps and getting your foot in the door on stuff is always important.
Yeah.
And then with the River Poet stuff, we were just constantly writing. Like we've got that 6 song EP right now. We've got enough material to do like just with originals. We could probably do like a 90-minute set of stuff that we've got in our back pocket ready to go. Um, and then like I always look at the list of songs that we've got there, and there's probably like I think the number was like up over like 75 or closer to 80
Mhm.
songs, and of course like maybe we've got about 50 of them that are workable into something right now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's now we're in the process of just getting things recorded and starting to track some stuff. So we're back with our recording engineer slash producer guy, and he's been working on some stuff with us, and we're just right now it's kind of like fine tuning. Like we did the EP, and now we're a lot of the thought process is fine tuning like instrument selection and sound, and like what do we want it to sound like,
Mhm.
and it's just trying to find that balance, right? Like we want it to be as because we primarily would do as an acoustic duo. So we really want a lot of that stuff to come forward and make it sound like I love stuff that's just like sounds like it's live off the floor.
Yeah.
I find that you get kind of the best, like those are for me those are my favorite recordings to listen to. That's the stuff I always find I go back to, hey.
Yeah.
So I'm that's kind of where I would like that sound to go, but we gotta we're always open to suggestions. So when we have
Right.
those conversations, it's important to I think it's important to listen, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's that, to kind of reiterate what you were just talking about with the live on the floor stuff. That's where you get the most authentic version of the song, and especially if you're a band that consistently plays out live, that's where you get the truest version of what you're going to hear when you come to a show. Whereas if you're
Hmm.
tracking in individually, it'll sound the same, but it's not going to be the same, if that makes any kind of sense.
Oh, 100%. Well, and I know like for myself, like when I'm like, cause I do the like the rhythm guitar. So
Hmm.
I know like when I'm playing my acoustic on stage, it's so much different than when I'm sitting down and playing to
Yeah.
like a click. Because
Yeah.
like I I hate playing to a click. It's like I've tried so much, and I know guys are like, oh, the more you do it, like it just sort of blends into the background. I've never had that because
Hmm.
my brain is listening to it and it goes, that sound is annoying. So then all I do is I just tune it out, and then I'm not playing in
Yeah.
time at all, right? And
Yeah.
I know it feels to me, it feels more robotic, and I don't know if it comes that obviously the sound is going to be slightly different. I don't know if it comes off that way, but in my head, like that's always the lingering thought, right? Just in the back of my brain, I'm always thinking about that.
Right. 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 Fair enough. Fair enough. So kind of outside of music, I first off, I do want to thank you for joining us on our pancreatic cancer fundraiser for the PanCan Network. This is a near and dear situation to my heart. I don't know if you've dealt with pancreatic cancer or had anybody in your family with it, but it's an important topic, and I just wanted to thank you for joining us here today.
Oh, oh man, you're welcome. Yeah, my when I was a kid, my grandpa's brother ended up getting ended up getting cancer too, and I know like, I mean, these are like, flashing back to when I was like
Yeah.
8 or 9 years old, like I was very young, but I remember like just seeing him and watching kind of what was going on with him and his body, and it ended up going to his pancreas, and that's what really
Mm-hmm.
was it really did a toll on him towards the end there.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's always sad and terrible, but yeah, I these kinds of things are important, and especially to get the story out. Like I think talking about it and people like having people tell their stories is really
Yeah.
important, right? There's something really cathartic about that as well, and it does bring people together. As much as we don't want tragedy to happen, I think it
Mm-hmm.
brings out the best in people. Um, we've been finding like, as on a very personal note, not pancreatic cancer, but
Mm-hmm.
my son has been he was actually not well for the last number of months here. Towards the end of July, he started getting sick, and
Mm-hmm.
we just found out as well that he's been diagnosed, and we don't know. We're kind of, everything is still in flux, and we don't know the extent of what type it is. So far they're
Mm-hmm.
telling us that it's low grade, and it's um, obviously still cancer, but
Yeah.
something that will be manageable. Very scary, obviously, but yeah, we've been going through a little bit the last number of weeks here, but he's all things considered, he's doing really well. He's pretty tough.
Yeah.
So
He-
yeah,
He's
so
wait. He's
I
Go
no, go
ahead.
ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say he's upstairs waiting to go play in the snow.
He's waiting to go play in the snow. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, man. This aside right now, aside from his endurance being down, he's
Yeah.
like, we went out trick or treating the other day. He was out for
Mm-hmm.
about an hour and a half, and yeah, he was ripping it up. He just when he got tired, and he told us, right. He let us
Mm-hmm.
know that he was ready to go in, and he still insisted on running back and forth every time we had trick or treaters at the door to hand them out the candy. So that was really
Mm-hmm.
good.
Nice. That's cool. I'm sorry that you're currently going through that. Hopefully it'll all get better here soon, and
Hmm.
treatments and all that stuff. So I appreciate you sharing that story.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. Yeah, that was one thing my wife and I we really we had a lot of those discussions, and we're trying to keep it very open and transparent. Like obviously at our home level, it's important. We've also got a young daughter, and we had to tell her, and getting her to communicate with us like how she's feeling, whether they're good feelings or bad feelings. So that's been really positive so far. Like everybody's talking about it, but we wanted to tell people
Mm-hmm.
because we felt like, number one, like, we didn't want to close ourselves off, because sometimes that's the first thing you want to do, is just like shut
Yeah.
everything out. um, and it's been very positive. People have been very good, and not overwhelmingly so, because I know some people, when they want to help, it might be a bit too much.
Yeah.
But the support that's been there it's been amazing, and it's been very yeah, we're very grateful for the people we have in our lives, and friends and family and things like that. So it's been
Amazing.
good.
Amazing. So before we kind of wrap this up, outside of music, what do you like to do? I know you'd mentioned you work full time as, I'm guessing, a teacher, right?
Yeah, yeah.
What do you like to do outside of music just to kind of relax and whatnot?
Well, I mean, aside up until about a year ago, I would go out and play hockey with my buddies every once in a while as well. And with what's been going on with the music, we had
Hmm.
I had to take something out. so I had to detract that a little bit, which was fine. I was okay with that because playing hockey was expensive, and you
Yeah.
know, playing music and having gigs is kind of nice because you do bring home a little. I mean, it does making a couple $100, you know,
Yeah.
on the weekend doesn't hurt. Like it is kind of a nice little bonus, which is very
Right.
we're thankful for that for sure. But yeah, like honestly, like it's mostly just music, and then like just family time has been really big. Obviously, just going out and hanging out with my kids, whether we're you know going to the swimming pool or going for walks or whatever. So that takes up a lot of my time. Um, the other one is my buddies and I. Just over a year ago, they invited me. They've got a bad movie club, and they've been doing
Okay.
that for a number of years, especially since things have gone online. So
Yeah.
we've got a whole like Google spreadsheet of movies that they have watched, and then movies that we want to watch.
Hmm.
And the rule is, I think it's like there's like a certain rating, like on like Rotten Tomatoes, you can't go higher than that. Like it's got to be bad.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we just kind of sit around and watch terrible movies together, and play games and stuff. And it's kind of like Mystery Science Theater. Like it's just
Mm.
like we're watching it and then everybody's commenting while we're watching the movie. But it's a good bonding time and good hang with friends. So
Nice.
I mean, it's online, but we've got
Yeah.
you know every once in a while we get plans to like we get together outside of the Zoom meetings and stuff,
Mm.
and hang out in real life too, which makes it even
Nice.
better. And a lot of those guys are really into music too. So like some of
Nice.
those are like, hey, we meet up at like music festivals and stuff, which is sick.
Sweet. Now, do you guys? This is just my content creator brain kicking into overdrive right now. Do you guys record like the when you sit down to watch the movie, kind of like record your
Oh,
reactions?
that is a great thought.
Yeah.
I just don't know how quickly we would be canceled as a
Fair.
result of right
Fair.
there. So it's yeah. Some of the jokes are off the cuff and could be a little
Oh yeah. I
I
100%.
might sensitive.
Fair. Very fair. And so I love that idea. Actually, my buddy and I had thrown out the idea of doing like a banned book report type situation where we'd go
Oh
read
yeah,
books that are banned, and just because for a lot of different reasons, but we thought it would be an interesting idea. Except we just haven't had time to sit down and actually like do it. You know,
yeah, yeah. I know
but
we're always thinking of like more content and things that we could do for like just for river poets as well,
mm,
and that's one of the things that we kind of threw around there, is kind of just in like podcast format because
yeah.
again like it's for us it's about telling the stories, right? So
Hmm.
whenever we play a show, and this has been even when we like play bars and it's mostly covers, right?
Hmm.
I always like to throw in original tunes because I find that those always get the biggest and best response out of people, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of you set it up, you tell the story, and a lot of our stuff is like, oh yeah, like we're from the Paw, Manitoba, you know, we're like on the banks of the Saskatchewan River, like our dad is a hunter and a trapper, like he has a trap line, like
Yeah.
that's a thing, that's a kind of a niche thing that not a lot of people have that kind of background. So when you say those things and then you tell those stories and then you sing the songs, people are like, oh, that's they make that connection. And I've had a couple people throughout the years that we've been doing this where they kind of like you can see they're reeled in and they're kind of watching and they hang around and they always want to chat with you after, right? And those are the best interactions because it's like you know they'll send over a beer or something and then you're like I
Yeah.
see you and like we'll I'll have a chat during the break in the set and then we go over and you just have like this awesome hang with people because what they want to do is once they hear what you've done, they want to be like, oh, I'm from here or I did this, and then they want to share their story, right? And then
Yeah.
it's this awesome like reciprocatal like this reciprocation of these stories that we get to share with each other, and then it's for me, I just add those to the bank, right? Like it's just like, oh,
Yeah.
there's another idea because people want to tell you what they've done, and then you get this really great. You never know, right? You never know where these stories come from. So
Yeah.
I love that's those are my favorite moments while I'm playing music is sitting down in between and having those conversations with people.
Yeah, for sure. That's really cool. And I think that's what really helps build the community is
Hmm.
having those personal interactions with people as they come to a show or if they've seen you for their first time or their 100th time. So
Oh yeah.
I
And the Paw, Manitoba is this, it's this weird little place because a lot of people like it's sort of like a they call it like the gateway to the north, and it's home of the Trappers Festival. So like people
yeah
from all over come and they do the dog races and all of these like events and stuff. And like my brother and I lived there. Like I moved away when I was 19, and my dad still lives there, my mom still lives there, but there's a lot of people that sort of pass through, so they go there and then they move on. And like
yeah
the other day, my dad was in town. He was visiting because he wanted to see my family and see the boy and make sure he was doing okay. And we're at a restaurant and we're just kind of sitting there chatting, and we started talking to the about the paw, and our server was like, "Oh, no way!" And like the owners of the place, that's where their family's from, the paw.
hmm
And then we're
oh
sitting
well
there, and this lady across from us at the other table was like, "Did you say you're from the paw?" And she ended up being my dad's old neighbor. Like it's and I'm not kidding. Like I know that that sounds crazy. That
hmm
happens all the time. Like we'll go play a show, and I have a song about where my grandparents lived in Cranberry Portage, which is like an hour north of where we were, and people are like, Cranberry Portage, like I'm from there, and I'm like, what? Like nobody's from there. Like,
right.
but it happens. It's so crazy. It happens all the time.
And it's always funny when it happens when you're not anywhere near the city
Oh,
or yeah,
100%.
it happens to me all the time. Like I'll say, when I was living out in New Mexico for a few years, and I met so many people that grew up around the same area that I did. It wasn't exactly the same city, but it'd be like the next town over or whatever. And it's like, oh yeah, I used to go to such and such a place every Thursday night, like whatever it is. And it's like, we're 1,500 miles away. How does this even make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I do really appreciate your time and the conversation. If anybody wants to check out River Poets and your music, your shows, your social media, any of that fun stuff, what is the best place to find you?
Uh, riverpoets.ca. So if you go to our website, everything is linked through there, and we've got like we're at Instagram and Facebook and all the usual outlets as well. So super easy to find. You go through there, you can link through what all of our stuff.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, once again, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate your time. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And we will be back in a little bit with our next guest.